The film starts off with two masked men that are in a building they have broken into. They pack up their graffiti tools and take a picture of their work before they leave. They escape stealthy out of the building and change. Here we are shown the two boys to be Toby and Jamil. Toby lights a blunt and they both get changed. They hear a noise, so they both leave and part ways. Toby walks and sees police drive past him. He runs off and gets to the train station. While at the station, he sees a beggar and a man gives a disgusted look. Toby goes behind him and gets his wallet. He gets it and drops it behind, acting like he found the man's wallet for him. Toby gives a smile towards the man like he is expecting something. The man gives him a 20-pound note and Toby, in front of the man, gives it to a beggar, then hops on the train, which pisses the guy off. On the train, he then waves the man goodbye just to add insult to injury. He arrives home and tries to be quiet. Then he gets in his bed laughing. The scene then shows a couple arriving back home getting steamy. While kissing, the girl looks at the wall and points out something. The man looks and we see what the boys had done. The next scene is when a camera passes across to where we see a man called Hector. He is just sat thinking. Outside, the camera pans towards Jamil, where he appears to be at work cutting trees, but he appears to be glancing at Hector's house. While on a break, Jamil says he's going to go toilet. He goes asking if anyone is inside, however, he hears no response. He looks around and ends up in the living room. He finds a Wi-Fi box and takes a picture and sends it to Toby, saying the person who lives here is a judge. Hector appears and Jamil explains he was looking for the toilet. Hector is polite and directs him towards the toilet. Toby researches and does some Mission Impossible workout. Jamil is at home and his girlfriend comes home. She is called Nasreen. They catch up and Jamil shows a picture of Hector's house, telling her one day they will have a house together like that. They hug and then Nasreen is just about to break some news to him. Next scene, Jamil meets Toby in a cafe. They laugh and catch up and Toby explains he'd done research on Hector. He says he found out that Hector is a judge and is dodgy and is 100% hiding something. Jamil then explains that Nasreen is pregnant. Jamil is excited, however Toby doesn't take the news too well. Toby is surprised Jamil is going to keep the baby and Jamil states that he needs to stop these missions as he can't risk going back to jail because there is a baby on the way. Toby explains to Jamil that he needs him and that they can't stop proving their point, they can get into anywhere. Jamil and Toby get in a heated argument and Jamil tells him Toby can do what he wants, just not involve him in it. Toby is at home watching an interview. His mom arrives home and hears music blasting. Toby is watching an interview where they question about the I came by movement and a person answering the question says it's stupid. He comes and sees his mom and she asks where the TV remote is. He tells her he is going out and she asks to clean the kitchen before he leaves, but Toby says he will do it after and leaves. I feel bad for the mom. I don't know about you. Hector jumps in his car and leaves. Toby runs and makes way into his Huzi. He connects the Wi-Fi and disables all security systems. He almost gets caught by a neighbor, but makes it on time. While inside, he looks around, and in the living room, he takes off the main portrait. While preparing, he hears a noise downstairs in the basement. He goes down, finds it be a fan, and relaxes. Hector is playing squash, but sees his network is disabled, so he makes ways back home. Meanwhile, Toby goes through Hector's desk and finds some zip ties and old weird pictures. Toby then drops a light and sees a light coming from behind a shelf. He investigates closer and finds a secret red door. He tries to look inside and falls back and is terrified. Hector runs inside and sees if anyone is inside and goes down in the basement. He gets a call from his friend and explains everything is fine, however he notices his painting is not straight. Toby leaves from behind and Hector hears the door open. He runs and looks outside but doesn't see anyone. Toby is here hiding. I can't lie, he is smooth with it. Jamil is waiting for his girlfriend and sees that her family are kicking her out because of the pregnancy. He comes outside and comforts her. They make it back home and Jamil sees Toby outside. She goes in and Toby explains he broke into the judge's house and tries to explain what he saw. Jamil stops him and tells him to sort his mess out himself because he doesn't want to get involved. Toby walks off feeling upset and alone because he doesn't have anyone else. He sits and smokes a cigarette and stares at a phone box. After thinking for a while, he decides to call the police. Hector is at home watching cartoons, but then his bell rings. The police come to the door and come inside. They question him while Toby is outside. The police open the door downstairs and see a tumble dryer and close the door. They find nothing and leave. This frustrates Toby and ends up going to sleep. He wakes up to his knocking door. She has a go at him for not cleaning the kitchen, and he decides to leave. His mom has a go at him and takes his keys off him. Toby says how is he going to get back, but she says when he fixes himself up. He asks for the inheritance money his dad left, but she slaps him. She tells him he is 23 and has achieved nothing, and so he leaves. In the next scene, Hector leaves and Toby runs in but waits as he is testing to see if anyone goes in. Toby goes down and opens the door where he finds a man all bloody in a locked room. Toby gives his hand out and tries to save him, however he sees Hector at the door. He goes back and leaves the guy anyway. Hector then comes down and sees if there is anyone there and goes in the room. Toby is hiding in the cupboard. He comes out and grabs a hammer. Then he runs towards Hector. While running, he slips and Hector finishes him off. Hector then cleans up and hides all evidence of anything. He then flushes Toby's remains. Toby's mom sat watching TV and begins to have a bad feeling. Jamil comes to his mom's house as she gets worried for his disappearance. The police come and a detective questions Jamil and his mom for his last whereabouts. We learn Jamil and Toby haven't spoken for a few months. The police leave and say they will treat this as a missing persons case and leave. Jamil tries calling Toby trying to get hold of him, but doesn't have any luck. Jamil then goes to Hector's house and takes his latest letter. While he gets in the car, police come and search him. They find a spliff on him and he gets arrested. He gets taken to the station, and we learn that Jamil has a bad record with the police as he has been prisoned multiple times. He comes across as nice and explains he has a baby on the way and wasn't doing anything. He gets released and notices the letter he got arrested with gets given back. Boy, he lucky. Toby's mom wakes up and goes into his room and finds Jamil. She cries thinking it's him. Jamil explains he came here to look at his secret stash for any clues. He opens it and he finds drugs and a letter to Hector Blake. Toby's mom then meets the detective and explains that this must be a clue. The detective sees the addresses and checks her files. She tells his mom to go home and wait for her call. The detective meets with her partner and she explains the last cell sighting traced back to Hector's road. The letter was found in his room and someone called reporting someone at his house was held captive. The detective goes to Hector's house and explains she is going to search his property as she has reason to believe he has an endangered life. The team go in and look around and she asks Hector she would like to look at the basement. He explains it's just his workshop and his ex-wife used to do ceramics, but turns out to be a complete lie. She looks around at the shelf, but then sees something. She asks Hector if there is a secret door behind, and he says yes. She tells him to open it right up. He opens, and she steps in and has a look around. Hector states it's his panic room, but she notices that the peephole is facing on the inside, not out. Hector acts normal, and round the corner he scolds her and says, "I thought you one of the smart ones, is that all you got?" She arrests him and takes him out. Toby's mom watches and gets spotted by Hector, then drives off. Back at the station, he gets released and gives the detective a long stare. She calls Toby's mom and explains that she is done and can't do any more getting her upset. Toby's mom is at home and tries to clear his things out. While cleaning his drawer, she finds a USB stick. She tries to see what's inside, but can't unlock it, has a code. Hector arrives in a building and Toby's mom follows. He is in a spa where he sees a young man. He gets a massage from him and he talks to him. He learns that the boy doesn't talk to his family, is disowned. He is waiting to try and get his documents and is gay. Hector makes him a friend and says he wants to help, so invites him to his house. Toby's mom is outside and sees the young man arrive at his house. The man goes inside and gets welcomed by Hector. Hector makes a drink, and while he tells the man to put a record on, they sit down and have a drink together, and Hector begins to explain his story with his father. They sit and talk, and Hector explains that his father brought a boy called Ravi in the family when they were young. He got with him and his dad was found in bed with Ravi. This caused Hector's mom to kill herself and young Hector to find her body. Hector was sent to boarding school and never spoke to his father again. He then explains he keeps a picture of him on the wall to let him see he can do everything he never wanted Hector doing. The scene then intensifies and the man starts feeling uncomfortable. He asks to use the toilet and Hector lets him. The man is in the toilet, however he is drugged and can barely walk. He tries to go to the door, however Hector comes from behind and brings to the living room. He gets the boy another drink and begins talking about how he killed Ravi. While Hector is talking, the man barely escapes from the window and finds Toby's mom outside flashing her lights and escapes. This gets Hector pissed off. Jamal goes to visit Toby's mom and finds her researching Hector. They sit and he explains he is now a dad. Jamal gets concerned as he can't get hold of her, and she explains she'd been watching and studying Hector Blake. She explains that she saw a man throw himself out his window and was drugged, however he is scared to go to the police as it might affect his case. The man leaves his job and gets beat at by Hector. He asks the man to jump in, but he says for him to leave him alone. Hector then blackmails him to otherwise he will stop his asylum seeker form, so the man gets in. Toby's mom meets with the detective and they learn that the young man has gone missing and she can't do anything to prove something happened to him without evidence. The scene then shifts where Hector is looking through the boy's phone where Toby's mom is texting him trying to get hold of him. Hector researches her and finds out who she is. He looks outside and spots her looking. He goes outside and leaves his keys outside pretending he can't her watching. He leaves them there so she can find them and go inside trapping her. While she watching, a man calls her and tells her he cracked the USB stick. This pretty much saves her life as he pretends to go for a jog. Jamal comes home and finds Toby's mom and Nas and his baby. They talk and say hi. Nas takes the baby to change nappies and she shows some pictures to Jamal. They go outside and she finds out him and Toby were the creators of the I Came By movement where they break into rich people's houses. Jamal denies it at first, but then gets caught out. He says it won't prove nothing for Toby's case apart from taking him to jail. She asks him to help break into Hector's house, but he says he can't. This upsets her as she and Toby were always there for him and he owes her. He still says no and so she leaves. He comes back home and Naz asks what happened. He says nothing and she just came to see the baby. She starts getting annoyed as she feels he keeps shutting her out and keeping her in the dark. He explains he is doing it for them, but she doesn't really like the idea. Toby's mom is outside waiting and sees Hector leave. She goes in and looks around. She goes back down and finds Hector. She tries to get away, but the door is locked. They tumble and she almost gets away, but Hector gets her just before she leaves. Jamal is at home and receives the USB stick from Toby's mom saying she did make copies. The scene then shifts to where she is tied up in Hector's basement. He brings out the man's body and she asks what he did with Toby. He explains he flushed his ashes down the toilet. He proceeds to then cut up the body. Jamal goes to Toby's mom's house and tries to get hold of her as she has been missing for a while, not knowing she is already dead. He goes to Hector's house, but no one is inside, so he breaks in and finds the basement and looks around confused. Jamal and finds Naz at home about to leave and starts crying, and he blames himself for Toby's mom being gone. Naz goes to Jamal's house and we learn they now broken up. She comes inside to get her baby and she explains Hector Blake will be there to read her uni work as there is going to be a huge event for him. She says she hopes it helps and leaves. During at the event, he gives a speech. After he leaves and sees Naz's work and he decides to throw it in the bin. He goes in his car and Jay is waiting for him. He drives off and Jay follows. He gets to the house and sneaks in from behind. He goes inside and finds Hector sleeping. He tries to attack Hector, however he wakes and gets away. They fight and Hector tries stabbing him, however Jay overpowers him and punches him up. He runs to the garage and opens up where he finds the same man Toby found in the hidden room. Jay comforts him and tells him the police are coming and you are safe and runs off. He calls Naz as he drives and the police arrive at the house. The detective arrives at the scene where she finds Hector tied up and next to the famous "I Came By" slogan. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications for more. We will see you on the next one.